generation of higher education, Olanna. Woo, woo, Olanna. Woo, woo. First generation of higher education, Olanna. Woo, woo, Olanna. Woo, woo. First generation of higher education, Olanna. Woo, woo, Olanna. Woo, woo.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am your host, Malia Gould. I am a first-generation graduate student here at Illinois State University. I currently serve as the TRIO graduate assistant, and special thanks to the TRIO staff for making this podcast a continuous success and for your continued support. The First Generation Triumph podcast highlights students and professionals who show up with a purpose. Each guest shares how their lived experiences shape their standards, decisions, and definition for success. Our focus stays on the action required to achieve victory on their own terms. I am honored to be joined today by Miss Olanna Pullen, a first-generation college graduate, as well as a TRIO alum and the career advisor here at Illinois State University. Miss Olanna, would you please go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your experiences here?
Yes, well, thank you all for having me. My name is Olanna Pullen, and I currently serve as a career advisor here at Illinois State University. My background, I range from Chicago, more specifically, I like to say the west side of Chicago. And from my journey started in elementary school, and I started from actually a Catholic school, then we transferred to a public school, and I also went on to attend STYMED's Academic Century, I think is the name now, it was changed, high school, and from there I actually was accepted to University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. I attended that for a few years, and Parkland College, actually, I took a few classes there as well. And then I went on to transfer to Illinois State University, and thus, almost 3 degrees later, I am currently here, and I've been in my role as a career advisor and career services since 2022.
Okay, nice. Now, you just told us a little bit about your educational background. Could you tell us a little bit about the journey to transitioning to a career advisor here?
Well, one of the things is my journey is a little bit interesting when I share with students and also with alumni. I actually started my bachelor's degrees in sociology. And as a result of getting my bachelor's degree in sociology, and I almost had a minor in psychology, I actually was a caseworker. I served as a caseworker, over 300 cases, different social service agencies in addition to that. So I probably have about 10 years experience in social services. I went on to eventually work in corporate. Loved the corporate environment, was there close to 5 years. And then unfortunately, our department kind of got dismantled. And then I decided at that point, I got a phone call from someone actually, which is very interesting. Someone that I worked with, I went to school with my master's degree. She called, I don't know how she found me, but she told me about a role for a federal grant that was offered here at Illinois State University. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that grant, I actually decided, okay, let me give a little try at this higher education, work experience. And then that was 2013. And here we are, fast forward. I've had the great opportunity to work not only at Illinois State University, I've worked at actually a private college for a couple of years in Peoria. Okay. I did a year-long experience in my graduate degree program, which I know we may talk about later. And then again, after leaving ISU in the midst of the pandemic, I left for a couple of years and I returned back. And thus I've been in this role as a career advisor since June of 2022. Love it. Can't believe it'll be going on 4 years. And it's been an interesting journey and I love every bit of it.
Wow. And you did this all as a first generation student.
Yes.
Now, could you explain a little bit about what that means to you, a first generation student?
Yes. So one of the things is I think sometimes we have to be careful because we can use that as a deficit when you use first generation. But for me, when I think about first generation, I think about the word legacy. Mm-hmm. And what I say and mean by that is everything has a first. When you think about your family lineage, somebody had to be the one who started the family, generations. If you think about even a CEO of a company, has to be a first person to start that. And so when I think about first gen, to me, that means a legacy. I know someone had to be the first person in my family to just see that, hey, this is possible. And thus I decided to do that. And so when I think about, again, first generation, I think about a legacy, that a pathway for my nieces, nephews, greats, and cousins, anyone in my family, even the older generation that did not have the opportunity to attend, and my mom and dad who didn't get a 4-year degree, I have that privilege. And so again, I think again as a legacy, I'm the first one to show someone that it is actually possible.
Okay, and then I know like over time you have to like develop this way of thinking. So like how did your early life and like family experiences kind of shape the way you look at education now?
Well, it's funny thing is, so my mom was very strict. I'll say that with me and my younger sister. My older brother and sister kind of did some things, had some little forks in the road throughout their education journey. And as a result, my mother, she was always ingrained with education. She was actually a practicing nurse, but she didn't get her nursing degree till probably later on. And that was actually a 2-year associate's in a certification pretty much.
Okay.
But what she ingrained in us is, I remember we would have class actually in the house. She would have this board of the alphabet. It's a yellow board. I remember, I don't know why so vividly, the alphabet on the wall. And she pretty much was very instilled in us, hey, you're going to get your education, get good grades. I was afraid to sometimes get a C. I brought home a D in a project and I was like, oh my gosh, life is going to be over. But my mom was pretty much easygoing. She understood the project was hard, but she was very adamant that she wanted us to get an education, because she knew just some of the things that we had witnessed and went through, that there are better things out there. Nothing wrong and against Chicago, but she always wanted us to be open to doing other things.
And that's very important. You can get stuck in that hustle and bustle of Chicago, and a lot of people don't see that there's additional like routes to go. So that's really important.
Yes.
Can you share some of like the challenges you faced when you started your undergrad journey?
So for me, I'll have to say my undergrad journey was a little bit trivial. We had some things going on in my family at the time, so it was very hard for me to leave, but I knew it was the best thing for me to do in order, again, to create this pathway for others in my family, that they know this, getting a 4-year degree would be possible. And so the first year was very tough because I was homesick. It was a big institution. I started at University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. Very big institution.
Very
It was
big.
overwhelming. I have to say, I actually carried probably too many credit hours, 18 or more credit hours as a freshman.
Oh.
And so, I was kind of, unfortunately, I was not advised correctly, probably on the load, and the type of classes that I attended to were probably very rigorous for what I was trying to major in at the time. And so it was tough the first year. I was homesick. But I will say I was a social butterfly, so I immediately tried to find my village. But I did find it challenging to find the resources. I think sometimes, too, as first gens or just students, period. Again, I don't want to use first gen as a deficit. Just admitting that I did not know. Because I felt as if, everyone that I knew, and when I was sitting in these classrooms, I wouldn't ask questions because I figured, well, everyone knew, and I didn't want to be the one to say, hey, I don't know. But, in talking to more people, I found out most of us didn't know, but somebody had to be, again, the first to ask the question. And so it was a little, tough, but as time went on, it got a little bit better. I started learning how to advocate for myself as a student, and learning that these resources are here, and that sometimes, unfortunately, you do have to seek them out yourself. They won't be, given to you. But again, as a first gen, sometimes it's hard to navigate how to actually even do that. But I started finding my village. And from that village and a lot of other staff and administrators on campus, I was able to learn how to navigate that system a little bit better. And I'm a researcher, so I started researching. I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure this out.
Okay. And then what would you say motivates you to continue your education despite these challenges that you were facing?
Well, one of the things is I knew I love Chicago, but I know that was not the place for me. I needed to grow and go, and the only way I could do that was leaving the city of Chicago. And so I knew that, okay, Olanna, despite these challenges, you got to triumph from that. And so you need to tap into these resources. And I had actually met other students, and we were all kind of going through the same thing. So we started working together as a village and say, hey, let's see how we can both help each other out. And then meeting other students too. I think sometimes I encourage students to get involved on campus because you meet other students that sometimes have those resources too that can help you navigate it. So that could be juniors or seniors, other ethnicities, and things of that nature. So I knew again, and I ultimately knew what I wanted. I wanted this 4-year degree, and I was going to get it no matter what it took. And so I said, from U of I said, okay, I'm going to do this. Now again, I eventually transferred to Illinois State University, but while I was at U of I did take advantage of the resources and said, hey, I'm going to triumph through these issues no matter what.
Okay. Now you spoke a little bit about like your experience at U of I. Could you explain what like your first experience was with Trio and like how did that journey with Trio kind of begin for you?
When I tell you Trio was a lifesaver for me, one of the things I'll give kudos to U of I at Urbana-Champaign. They also had a summer bridge program. So in addition to that summer bridge program, so I want to say it was from July through up until classes started. We had maybe a week break, but I was able to get on campus, and then they help you work with you, for that week to help you get acclimated to the resources and the campus. So I spent a couple of weeks, and they also had parents. They had sessions for parents as well. Not actually all 3 weeks, but probably maybe a couple of times the first week. But I actually spent about 3 weeks on campus before classes started. And again, I think I had a week's break, and then I started classes. But what I found with Trio was I felt like I was not alone. And it helped me, again, I think finding your community. I think people don't understand it. Everyone tries to find their community no matter where you're from. And I found my community, and Trio kind of felt like a home to me. So when I was navigating spaces or issues that I didn't know how to, sometimes I would lean on my Trio support to say, hey, I'm frustrated. I don't know how to get through this. Give me some tools or tips. And I found that the people were not selfish with the information. And it was nice to actually be a part of people that had went through it. A lot of them were first gen too. So it's nice to have a shared experience. And so Trio really helped me feel like it was possible. I can honestly say probably if I did not have Trio, I don't know if I honestly would have continued my 4-year degree. Just because, again, I kind of felt like I was on this island all alone. But when I would sometimes run a Trio and be like, help, again, it was like a family.
Okay. Yeah, and I completely understand. I feel like my own personal journeys, like I always felt like I was playing catch up. Like I didn't have anyone to like kind of give me the rope, show me the ins and out until like I came to Trio and saw that I was around so many other people going through the same thing. So that was very comforting. And kind of speaking on like being comforted by Trio, how would you say that you feel that Trio has supported you, whether it's academically, financially, emotionally, during your transition through like undergrad?
Well, I will say one of the things is Trio, when students come to college, a lot of times they don't just have their academics, they have family issues, their background. They're bringing all those to college. And so what I felt as if they were kind of safe haven to help me, even when I was facing issues like, for example, when I had this high course load. I remember the Trio staff saying, oh my gosh. And then they looked at the classes that I had picked out, had met with an academic advisor, and they were like, oh my gosh, you need to drop this. Because again, I ended up going out on academic probation because it was 18 hours and these were rigorous 4-hour classes.
As a freshman.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that some students can't handle that load, but that was a lot for me getting acclimated to a big, and I don't know if any of you have ever been to U of I's campus at Urbana-Champaign. It is huge.
It's huge.
So, used to the campus and also as well as navigating it. So they helped me actually academically, but also personally to help build up my confidence too. To know that, I wasn't crazy. 18 hours was too much. And the level of the classes that I took, that probably was too much. And so they encouraged me to maybe drop a class or two, or kind of, at the time before, there's deadlines to register for classes. Let's try this class with that to balance it out, and which helped me advocate to go to my actual academic advisor and say, hey, this is too much for this freshman student. So they actually helped me academically and just helped me again learn how to advocate for myself. I've always felt like I was a confident person, but sometimes, as a student, you feel like they have the power. So it is hard for you sometimes going to the staff and saying, hey, you were wrong. I shouldn't be taking these because, again,
Yeah.
I'm a student.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. So kind of just give you like that reassurance, like, yeah, this is a heavy course load. So,
Yes.
because I know like trying to navigate through the different spaces on your own and like at your own pace, you would think like you're playing catch up, like I
Right.
said. So you probably would be apprehensive, like, no, if I drop this, I'm gonna fall behind. But like Trio kind of like reassured you, like, yeah, this is a bit much for you.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
that's
definitely.
good. That's good. Can you share a moment when Trio like really made a difference in like your success and like you noticed that without Trio I could not have done this? You kind of spoke on it a little bit, but like could you go more in depth on that?
Yes, probably. I want to say I'm thinking probably the spring semester of my first year. It was so I got through the first one, I dropped some courses. It was a little bit better, but then the second semester I had a few more rigorous courses.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably one time in particular I had some issues with an instructor, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how to navigate that again as a student because, again, I'll give you advice. I was in a big lecture hall. And sometimes, they have TAs, which are teacher assistants, to help the instructor manage the classroom because there's so many students. And a lecture hall could be 200 or 300 students. And so it was a big, I think, a 300 level course. Well, it was I think it was 300 students in a class. It was an introduction class.
Okay.
And so I was having a hard time actually getting to see this instructor and asking questions in class because it was so many other students that I felt, an instructor, 50-minute class, they can't answer all the questions.
Right.
But I felt as if each time I kept getting dismissed. Each time I'd raise my hand, I'm like, okay, what's going on? And I want to say, I don't know if I can't say it's necessarily anything personal because there was 300 students, but I didn't know how to navigate that and just have a conversation with the instructor and say, hey, I need a little bit more one-on-one because sitting in this 300 people classroom was too much for me. And so I remember talking to someone in Trill and just say, hey, what's the best way? Again, and even sometimes sending email to the instructor and a TA, they wouldn't get back to me in time. I'm not saying, I'm definitely not excusing that behavior, but when you have a classroom of 300 students, I don't know how that worked, as a freshman student. And so I was trying to think of a different approach. So they did encourage me in Trill to continue to especially send emails because that was my way of tracking and my proof that, hey, I've reached out to this instructor because when it came to these big tests, it was a lot. And so if I have proof, if anything attacked me or helped, hindered me academically, I can show, hey, I've reached out to this instructor. I've reached out to you. I didn't want to be personally be just bothering them all the time with emails, but that is my right as a student. If I'm not getting a follow-up, and sometimes I couldn't go to the classroom because the hours was offered, I was in another class. And so they really encouraged me again to actually continuing to reach out to the instructor. And the instructor eventually reached out. But again, it was one of those things where, hey, you could have reached out a little bit earlier instead of waiting 2 weeks later, because 2 weeks later we could have an exam or something else.
Yeah. So Trio just kind of showed you how to like navigate that situation, would you say? Okay.
Yes.
Why did you decide to transfer to Illinois State University, and how did this transfer impact your academic journey?
I decided, and it was hard, I have to admit, it was hard to transfer to Illinois State University because a lot of people from my high school ended up going to U of I in Urbana-Champaign. So it was hard because as a community I'd been with in high school, and so to leave them in addition to the friends I had met, it was a difficult decision, but I knew for me I was overwhelmed. This college was too big and the tuition was a little bit more expensive than what my family could afford, even with the financial aid. And so I had to make a decision. I knew I did not want to go back to Chicago. I wanted to get this 4-year degree. So at the time, I was interested in going into psychology, and I knew ISU, which I had never heard of, Illinois State University. I never heard of Bloomington Normal. I'm like, what is Bloomington Normal? I had never heard of the city. And my lens, I'm from Chicago. And I'm like, that's all I knew pretty much. And so when I found out they had a pretty good program at the time, or sociology and psychology, I said, okay, let me transfer here. But I didn't know anyone. I was taking a leap of faith. I knew no one here. So it was just have to start all over again. And then at that point, I was probably considered a non-traditional student because I wasn't a typical, like 18, 19 when I first started college.
Okay.
At that point. So it was hard, but it was the best thing for me because it was a little bit of a smaller environment here. And so I could have a little bit more one-on-one. I didn't have to worry about a whole bunch of, some of the classes are lecture, but it wasn't a whole lot of most of them like at U of I. Most of them at the time were mostly lecture classes. So I was able to have a one-on-one, more, smaller classroom experience, smaller campus. And so I probably, after about a year, I got acclimated. And I probably, again, I will say it was the best decision because within that year, again, I did meet new people and also found out that I had knew someone down here whose family I had known growing up, but had no idea that this person and the family were connected. So I did have a family, and so it was the best decision for my academic journey, and thus I have been here ever since, which is crazy because I always said, I'm going back to Chicago. Here I am years later, still here in Bloomington, in this Bloomington normal that I know about now.
Yeah. So that's actually funny. So like you stayed here. Now, what would you say inspired you to pursue your master's here as well? Like, and eventually a doctorate degree. Like what just kept that drive going?
So I'm going to back up like a little bit more. So originally I had thought about leaving the state when I was applying to college. Originally, I wanted to go to New Orleans because that was where a bulk of my family were from. And they encouraged me, but I was a mommy's girl and my mommy was here. And so I did not want to leave my mom and my younger sister at the time. So I decided, oh man, I passed up going to HBCU and I decided to come here. And then thus again, got my degree here, my bachelor's degree after transferring to Illinois State. And then I knew even after getting my bachelor's degree in sociology and working in social services, once I got that call from the person that I had actually, well, I'll say this. It was in talking to a few people, I realized that social services were great, but I knew I needed to help people. But I kept thinking about the challenges that I faced as an undergraduate student. And I wanted to always give back because each time throughout my journey in working as a caseworker, I met family members and people that wanted to go back to college. And so in that capacity, we would talk about college, and I'm like, maybe this is where I should really be. And I've always liked education. And so I decided, let me go back to get this master's degree in higher education. I did my research because I'm a researcher. So I wanted to know, okay, what does that mean? What does higher education mean? Because again, my lens was only social services. And so after doing some research and looking at the different programs, I actually got accepted to 2 schools when I tried to apply. I said, well, let me look at ISU because I had been used to the Bloomington normal at that point, but I really still wanted to go back to Chicago. So I applied to Loyola University. Well, funny thing is I did get admitted there, but the letter went to my mother's house in Chicago. By the time she used to mail my mail to me, when I saw the acceptance letter, I had accepted the program here at ISU. I was kind of heartbroken and shattered a little bit because I really did want to make my track back to Chicago. And I kept thinking, well, is it too late because I accepted here? And I think at that point it was too late to accept the admission by the time I got the letter at Loyola University, sorry. And they actually have a good higher education program as well. So from that, I said, okay, well, things happen for a reason. I don't believe things happen by mistake. And so as a result, again, that's why I decided I knew I needed to do more helping students, and I wanted students' journey, and I wanted to help them navigate the journey because I knew what I had experienced. And so from that, I decided to get my master's degree. And after getting my master's degree, I realized that wasn't enough. I wanted to do a few more things, and I like research. And so it took me years to even think about getting anything beyond, because a master's degree was rough too. And I'm like, are you crazy? Why do you want to get this doctorate degree? I'm like, what are you thinking? But there's some things I wanted to do administrative wise, and I knew that I think the PhD would set me up in a better position to do that. And I like research. And so probably some years later, someone kept telling me, it was an instructor here saying, why don't you do it? I was like, no, I can't do it. I don't have the time. I felt like I really didn't feel like I had the skills or capacity to do it. And sitting down with this instructor in this instructor's office, the instructor said, actually 2 of them, said, why not? Why not try it? You can always leave if it's not for you. But also they said, you have time on your time's going to continue to pass no matter if you do this or not. And it sounds like you're passionate about it. And so I again decided years later to pursue this doctoral journey, which I'm still on right now.
Okay. Yeah, and that's just so important, like just that constant encouragement. So I was thinking, like, before I started my master's program, as a sophomore in the undergrad program, you could not have told me I was going to go through no master's program. So it's just like, wow, like to just see the encouragement along the way to continue, like, to better yourself.
Yeah, because I mean, again, as a student, especially the first year, I'm just trying to think of how can I get through the 4-year degree. To me, that was a big journey. So to tell me anything beyond that, I'm like, you gotta be crazy.
Yeah, that's so real. Now, how would you say that moment kind of inspired or like shifted the way you advocate for like Trio, or like what part would you say Trio had as far as your journey?
So I'll say one thing is I actually, as an undergrad student, I've always been interested in TRIO too. So not only did I join it, I did my little research on what these different programs. I don't know if people know the historical context behind TRIO. TRIO was actually where the first gen term got coined from. And so that's one of the things. And I can't remember I feel like it's around 1980 when it was, but TRIO did actually help coin that term of first generation. And so what I realized was being a part of TRIO in my work that I'm even currently doing now, it helped me actually become a better informed person on not only is it enough for me to be a career advisor, for example, or whatever my role was, I need to learn how to navigate the other resources so I can refer students to them. So how can I refer them to resources that I don't even know about?
Right.
And so, and also too, I learned how to collaborate with other departments on campus to say, hey, what is it that you do so that I can be better informed as a professional on campus? So I will say TRIO. And the one thing about TRIO is I knew that they help students be successful. There's other resources on campus that help them, but the historical context behind TRIO from, I think it was 1964, I think when it was started, there are so many different pathways, and even high school students. One of my roles when my first role at ISU was to help, I worked with nursing students. And a part of the federal grant was to help create a pipeline for middle school and high school students into career paths in nursing. And what I realized was TRIO helped me bridge that to, say, hey, like there's different programs, I think McNair, different ones that help students. And I realized the importance of preparing students before they go to college. And so when I kept going back to TRIO and thinking about student support services, that it helps the college part, but what about these students that are in middle school and high school? And I kept going back to TRIO and the things and the tools and the historical context behind it. And it helped me, navigate my actually profession. And again, to learn that, again, I have to be a better person at knowing the resources so that I can refer students. Because again, students come to college with other things that are not, going on in their personal lives. And so as again, to be a better professional, I have to research. And again, TRIO really helped me own in that. Again, if, for those who like me have studied the historical context behind the creation of it.
Okay. Now, Heartland College also had a little part in like your professional development, academic, like rising, I guess I could say. Now, could you kind of share a little bit about like what you did there, like how, like the impact that you made while at Heartland and what that looked like?
So the great thing is, a part of the master's degree program at Illinois State University, which is where I got my higher education degree, we have to do what they call a practicum experience, and I just tell people it's a graduate internship.
Okay.
That's a graduate internship pretty much.
Okay.
Like you would do in any major if you were an undergrad, just an internship. And we have to do a year-long experience. So typically what they want you to do is a semester somewhere in one area and then switch up so you can have two different experiences. One in the fall and then one in the spring. So this is a practicum, again, an internship class. And so for me, I was very interested in the community college, but also going back to TRIO. I wanted an experience in TRIO. Well, I knew there was a TRIO program at ISU, but I wanted to get an experience in the community college because I had actually had an experience personally at U of I. I didn't do TRIO here at ISU as a student, but I knew a little bit about it as a undergrad in a 4-year institution. So at the time when I wanted to do this experience, I think Heartland Community College's theirs was Project Rise. I think it was the very beginning of their actual grant for their actually TRIO Student Support Services program. And so I looked into it and I said, there is no opportunity for anyone to do anything at the community college. And typically ISU wants to place you in places that are established. I don't know if people understand, but when you usually do internships, people want to review the sites and make sure it's a great person, place to place a student. We don't just place students anywhere. We want to kind of review it and work something out and then decide if we want to place students there. And so I actually talked to my instructor at the time and the department and say, hey, is there any way that I could possibly get into this TRIO program at Heartland? Now it involved work on my part because I had to come up, I think, with a proposal. I actually had to meet with the director at TRIO and Heartland Community College to first of all introduce myself and tell her how I can help her and see what her need was. And so her and I met, and in thinking about her actual objectives, what she wanted to actually get done. And then I think, again, knowing the fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think they were at the very beginning of it. So there were a lot of things that were in place. I said, hey, I think you can help me and I can help you. So thus they allowed me, I was the first student to actually pave the way for the ISU students at Illinois State in the CSPA program, more specific, to actually have a practical experience in the Project Rise Student Support Services TRIO program. Wow. And so in it, I was able to I created a binder, their orientation. I created a lot of firsts that they had. They had I think I created an online scavenger hunt. So there were a lot of things that I put in place, took photos, but some things I actually worked with creating, like the first, probably one of the communities that we started taking notes. I would facilitate learning communities. So I put a lot of things in place, which have thus carried on today. But going a step further, I knew my experience was from August to December. I'm like, well, that's not enough because, again, it's a new experience. So I had to go back and advocate to say, hey, would you let me stay there a year? Because, again, ISU wants to move you to a different experience.
Place, yeah.
So I said, I feel like I would leave with unfinished business if I go somewhere else, knowing that I'm the first student. Would you allow me to have a year-long experience? And again, they did, in which they typically don't do. So I was able to carry on even more work. So I felt as if I left Heartland Community College in good hands with the year-long work that I have done. And then again, it's thus going on, I think, still strong today, if I'm not mistaken, that students are having that experience. And so as a result of, again, as an undergrad student and in that experience, I'm like, I fell in love with TRIO even more.
Wow, that is like so inspiring because I just know how kind of like specific Illinois State is with their internship courses. So it's just like, wow, for them to allow you to do that.
But again, it goes back to, again, learning how to advocate for yourself. And also, again, when I first said there's a first.
Yeah.
So the legacy, so I've left behind a legacy there. And again, someone has to be the first to say, hey, and I'm sure that happened with the other internships areas as well. Somebody was the first internship, whether it was at Heartland or ISU or even here. So,
wow. That is just so, yes. I need to take a moment to breathe in. Like, that is amazing. Now, what advice would you give to, I guess, graduate students seeking a meaningful, factor?
Or you can just say internship.
Okay.
Practicum is the fancy word for internship practicum, but it's still an internship.
Okay, practicum. Yes. Practicum. What is some advice that you would give to students seeking out those opportunities?
Well, one of the things is, first of all, do your research. I know as a career advisor, when I meet with students, I can give them most of the tools. I think of my role as a collaborator. I help the students seek those things that will help them go on and do more research further. My job is to empower them to find those opportunities. So first, the thing I would say is do your research, get involved on campus. I am a big proponent of networking. And when I say networking, I mean to get involved with not only RSOs on campus, registered student organizations, because I know some people are like, what is that? But also with professional associations within your area. There are a lot of professional associations that, say, for example, if you're majoring in accounting, they have student memberships. And student memberships may be $50 or $60. And as a way you can network as a student, and sometimes you network and find out about internships, different opportunities. So I tell students, get involved, networking. And again, I think people think networking is this big mysterious word. Yeah. You're networking on campus. The time that you spend in class, when you're meeting with your instructor, when you're doing these projects, when you are having professionals come in and talk to you, that's all a part of networking. But get involved on campus. Also reach out to faculty and staff, may have that information. Reach out to your family members. we forget there are so many friends and family that sometimes are working in the industries that we want to pursue, and they may say, "Oh, I didn't know you're interested. Internship, I have this or that." I think about my nephew. He was involved in a lot of things in high school. He has mentors. And so those mentors have information too that you may be able to use as a student looking for an internship or a job. So I just think a lot of times telling graduates or students to say, hey, tap into your resources. You have a plethora of resources, resources on campus. But again, don't forget about the family, the friends, networking, getting involved in RSOs, doing projects with your instructor. Get to know your instructor too. Most instructors have worked in the field, so they have connections as well. And so I think that we don't realize that our network is so expansive. And so just empowering people to say, hey, look into all these resources. And then I do some research myself too. And I say, hey, let's research together. Let's look and see what's out there. Simple Google searches to see, internship, Chicago, Illinois. There's so many different resources. There's different platforms that you can find this information. I think because of technology, things are a lot easier to find these days. And so again, I just think tapping into your research and do your research. There is a lot out there. And ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. If you don't know how to do it, like I said, advocate for yourself. Hey, let me help you.
Yeah, I think that was like my biggest thing, like learning how to just like, hey, I can't handle all this. I can be helped.
And it's okay. If we thought that students could do everything or handle, we wouldn't have resources. So it's crazy for us to think that, you have all the tools and everything. And I mean, I'm not saying that students aren't competent, but ask for help. Sometimes life can be a lot more easier if we ask for help.
Oh, yeah. Can you describe your current role as a career advisor here at Illinois State University?
Yes, so as a career advisor at Illinois State University, I do multiple things. As my role, so career service, it used to be where they would place people. I was heard in the past. I wasn't aware of that. But what my role is as a career advisor is to assist with, I say, the career journey. The career journey starts with something as simple as creating a resume, cover letter, interviewing, those tips, and then also help you to prepare. How can you do those things and, create a different, a strategy to land those jobs? Because I want to believe, and I say this, students come to college because they want to work. I mean, at some point. And then, when you want to work, sometimes means going out of graduate school, getting an advanced degree like I did. But most students are coming here because they're wanting something as a result of it, which in a lot of times is gainful employment, honestly. And so as a career advisor, I help students navigate that career journey, whatever that may look like, because each student is different. We meet with freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors, and we also meet with alumni too. And so I tell people sometimes we forget about those people that maybe have been out in the field, and we work with them as well if they're changing profession. And so we do a variety of those things. And also I meet with students one-on-one. And then also I do presentations in the classroom. We actually assist with the actual career fairs that they have on campus, whatever that looks like. I could be the one helping the students letting them actually swipe in to get the fare. I may be the one actually directing them to where to go to their different stations. And so my role, I feel like I tell people there's a lot of things I like my role because I'm not doing one thing. It's not the same every day. Okay. I could have maybe 1 or 2 appointments. And then it could also involve me running a fair, doing a presentation. So I feel like I'm always across campus a lot. And so my role as a career advisor is multifaceted, I tell people. I do a variety of things. So I don't feel like it's really ever a boring day. Now, there may be some downtime, but I always use that time too. We do professional development as well. Okay. In our department.
Okay. Could you explain a little bit like what a one-on-one advisor meeting with the career advisor would look like?
Yes, so students, and this is where I'll put a plug in for Hire Redbird. Okay. Hire Redbird is the platform that ISU has, and they house that, and that's where there are a lot of resources. There are also employers that post jobs there. There's resources about resumes, cover letters. There's a host of things, and it's also the platform where students have to make an appointment. So if you go on Career Services website, or even if you go on ISU's website and type in Hire Redbird, I tell students you set up an account, and from there you can select what type of appointment you want. For example, if you want to talk about resume cover letter, we can do that. interview prep. If you want to talk about actually career exploration, what do I need to do with my degree? If you want to talk about LinkedIn or graduate school, what's the next steps are, you make those appointments, you get a time, and then based on the time, the system sends you a reminder, and we get the actual response, and we can accept it. And then we accept it, and then during that one-on-one, we talk about those things. So we talk about, if you want to talk about your resume, okay, let's talk about some strategies to have an effective resume, formatting, just little tips and tricks. And so that's what a one-on-one could be. If it's interviewing, it could be an hour-long appointment, depending on what you take or select. It can be a 30-minute or hour-long appointment. And the beauty of it is you can, the system will limit you, but you can come back at least a couple of times, I think, during the week. It won't let you do too many because, again, it has to allow other students to come as well. But the beauty of it is with Higher River, too, as an alumni, you can still use it, too. So after you graduate, your UID number is forever tied to you. So as an alumni, if you say, hey, you know what, I'll meet with you, Olanna, 2 years later, you can set it up and you can meet with us virtually or in person.
Wow.
So that's the beauty of it.
Okay. Does it have like a specific advisor that you go to, or is it like just different people that you would meet with every time if you have multiple appointments?
As a career advisor, we all are assigned specifically to different clusters, but honestly, students can select whoever they want to go to. It's not there. It won't say because you're an education major, you only can go to Olanna. Because that's particularly my cluster. A student looks and they decide who they want to meet with. Most students do typically meet with whoever's over the cluster, but it could be I met with students in different settings, and they's like, hey, can I meet with you? That's fine. You select that. So during your appointment, when you meet with me, when we come up to the second floor, you have to actually so you have to log in and then I have to get the prompt to know that you're here. And once I know you're here, whether it's virtually or in person, then I hit start the meeting. And so during that one-on-one, I may say, hey, for example, if you have a resume, do you have an example draft? And if not, okay, let's talk about what you can do to get it started. And the nice thing is we don't leave you without resources. We give you resources when you're there, and we also usually send emails afterwards.
Wow.
So I send you a lot of things, especially if a student is looking at an interview. I may say, hey, you know what, have you looked at these websites or different schools or different tips? And so our job doesn't just end a lot of times when the student leaves. We're sending emails afterwards of resources that can further assist you after our meeting.
Okay, it sounds like I'm going to be making my appointments.
And it's a resource I tell students that you're paying for. It's not that it's a great resource because, again, if you were in the real world, people charge a lot to look at a resume and a cover letter. So this is something for free that you can use even after you graduate as an alumni.
Wow. How do you incorporate your experience as, I know you say you don't like to like just use the term first generation, but how would you like incorporate your experience being the first in your professional work alongside like other students? So how are you kind of like that example? How do you use that like to, I guess, connect with other students, I want to say?
So I don't think the term first generation is a bad term at all. I just think sometimes some people use it as a deficit.
Okay.
And so I just think we have to be mindful of how we use it. But first gen is definitely not a negative word. And I don't mind identifying because I am a first generation student because, again, I think of the word legacy. I was the first one to open a path for a host of other people in my family to attend college. And so in my professional career, I'm always thinking about the students. Again, I always keep myself currently informed of what's going on, especially in higher education, all the changes and then navigating it. And so when I think about the student that I'm meeting with, a lot of times I tell students, I was a student once, right? So some of the challenges that you're going through are the same ones that I went through. So let me empower you on these resources that you can use that you probably don't know about. Like I said, hire Redbird. Let me empower you with these resources that you may not know about and you how to use those resources. And so again, I think sometimes as a first generation student, it's just you learn how to empower others. We are in a very interesting time in higher education and just in society in general. And so I think about those things that some of those challenges are actually resurfacing again. And you wouldn't think they would resurface, but they're still ongoing. And what I don't want is a student to have to go through the things that I went through. And so in order to actually prevent that, I always make sure, okay, Olanna, What can you do? So sometimes, again, but even before appointments, I'm doing extra research ahead of time because this student has put a note, I need this or that. So I'm going above and beyond, that 15 minutes or before and saying, hey, let me find these resources to a student. And it may not even have anything necessarily to do with the actual appointment, but the student has put a note and it's like, this is something, let me let the student know that this exists. And so again, I think sometimes the beauty of it is when you've been through the experience, it's easier for you to be able to reach out and connect with the ones who are going through the same experience. Not to say someone can't, but I understand how it is to navigate the system, to find the resources. And if it wasn't for people that empowered me, my role is to pass it on. It's no good if I hold the knowledge that I have and not pass it on to someone else. Because my hope is that the next person that I pass this on to as a first gen, you will do the same for the next. Again, because I don't want to see anyone go through what I went through. And not to say that I can't prevent everything that happens to a person, but if sometimes it's just taking a few minutes to just a little thing makes a big difference.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
What are key lessons that you learned about like perseverance and creating spaces for yourself and others? I know you said like you learned how to advocate for yourself. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
So, advocating and perseverance is something else. So even in this doctoral program, I remember if I'm trying to remember what this instructor said, that it's not necessarily about getting A's or B's, it's persevering in this doctoral program. The research, it used to be 50% get it and 50% don't finish the program. And that's half and half. I'm like, wow. And I was told this actually before I went to the doctoral program. I had reached out to a faculty member and saying, hey, I'm interested in the doctoral program. And I just wanted to talk to them because they had went through the process. So even before I applied, and when they told me that, I'm like, wow, that's kind of
that's a little scary.
It's like, well, you have a half a chance of going and half a chance of completing it. I'm like, wow, do I want to do this?
Right.
And one of the things is I remember in that conversation and in others, as I got into the program, were saying, what's going to be the key is perseverance. Why perseverance and advocating for yourself is important. And I share this with people. My mom passed it'll be 3 years in December. I remember that even throughout graduate school and undergrad, life happens. Things happen, and it still happens as you're navigating this collegiate journey. And one of the things I realized is, Olanna, despite that happening, you have to persevere if you want this. That's not going to stop the things that happen and come and go in our life, but you have to persevere. You have to advocate and say, hey, I had a death in the family. I may need a little more time to do this project. I had a death in the family. For me, I actually had to take a semester off to just when my mom was sick for 4 years, I navigated her health things and I was overwhelmed going back and forth to Chicago. And I'm like, I can't even think about school. So I advocated, even at the time, I remember there was a situation where my mom needed someone to be there for her doctor's appointments. And I worked and I said, hey, I got to be there for my mom's doctor's appointment, advocate for myself. Can I work virtually? Different things, so I had to learn how to advocate and persevere. And I just realized that life continues to happen. They say, they be saying life be life. And I'm like, life for real. I'm like, it's a true statement. Life be life. But in the midst of that, you still got to get through it. And sometimes it's okay. Sometimes you have to step back. So if you have to step back, I said, one of my instructors said, it's okay. If you have to step out to take care of you, that is okay. But advocate and let them know. A lot of times instructors or people will work with you if you let them know. And so again, I learned, okay, you know what? I can either do this or stop, or maybe it's just not for me to do it at all. Or how can I persevere and advocate for myself in the midst of continuing this journey? And so it's something, and it's still to this day, being in a program, again, I, missing my mom, and then, things that I think about, even some of the health journeys that I went through. I'm like, wow, the perseverance that's a strong word.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a village, though. You have to I can't stress to people, get you a village, whatever that looks like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What is some advice that you would give to your younger self, like as far as like traveling or navigating your collegiate journey? What is something like you would go back and tell yourself?
So one thing I would tell myself, not all advice is good advice. Not all advice is sound advice, and not all advice is good wisdom. And I say that because, when we talk to people, faculty, staff, or even friends and family, sometimes they're coming from a good place, but it may not be the best thing for me at that time. Because people, again, most of the time we're coming from our own personal experiences. But I think it's something to be said. We have to be careful of those that I talk to that are very closed-minded, or this is the way they do it. And so I just tell people, protect your ears. Protect what you let people tell you, what you open your ears to. Again, all advice isn't sound advice, and I had to learn that the hard way. That again, and I don't think I want to believe it. Everybody's intentional about giving you good advice. Some people maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest, but just be careful on the advice you get. Do your own research too. And again, and I'm okay with saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't want to entertain this conversation. Maybe this isn't for me, and it's okay to walk away. And I tell people, and people may or may not be happy with it, but it's okay. You have to do what's best for you. So just be mindful of the advice you get, and be mindful of what you impart your ears and what you surround yourself with. Have you a good positive village, because that does make a difference when you're going through all these things as you're navigating this collegiate journey.
What is one thing about your college days that will surprise people?
So I loved me some Mountain Dew and Red Bull.
Oh no.
And Red Bull is, let me tell y'all, Red Bull is horrible now. I tried to drink, oh gosh. I don't even know how I did. I drank Red Bull all the time, but I did not like coffee at the time. It's crazy. I did not start drinking coffee until I actually started working in corporate America, because I worked in corporate for a while. But I drank Red Bull and Mountain Dew like crazy. And I used to like orange Mountain Dew. Not any kind of Mountain. It was orange Mountain Dew, and I can't remember the size. It was about this big. And I don't know why I would drink that all the time. And I'm like, my body's probably like, girl, what are you putting here? I tried drinking some Mountain Dew probably about a year or two, and I was like, this stuff is, what was I thinking? But it got me through classes, because I did all-nighters. I mean, I ain't go.
Oh yeah.
And stuff we did all night. We was partying. I was partying, having fun, and you stay up the whole night and doing all nighters, knowing I had this 10-page paper, knowing I should have been working on a paper. But did Olanna start it? No.
Yeah.
Let's do it the night or 2 nights before. So guess what got me through it? Red Bull and orange Mountain Dew.
Yeah, it was a saying. If it's not due today, it's not getting
Right.
Yeah.
And what I drink, I haven't had Mountain Dew in years. I couldn't even drink it now. I'm like us.
Do you know it's banned in like majority of the country?
Yes. That's what's even scary. That's
so scary.
One of my friends, actually, we were going on a trip, and they asked, you want a Mountain Dew? I said, oh, no. Now that I know what's in it, but as a student, it was probably killing all kind of cells. And stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I will say is Mountain Dew and Red Bull were my friends.
That is hilarious.
And coffee, like I said, I didn't start drinking coffee till I got in corporate. Now I drink coffee in moderation now, but it's so much, to me, it's safer than.
That's so funny too. Like, it's like a cultural norm to drink like coffee in like a corporate setting. So
it is, and it's crazy. And I never would have thought I would be one to drink, because even as a young child, since my mom used to make coffee, and I don't know if she was giving them, my sister and them, real, probably decaf, but it could have been real coffee, because my family grew up from down south, so we got introduced to some interesting things, as a student, not a bad way, but there's different thing, mentality down south sometimes. And so I liked the smell of coffee, but I just didn't like it. And I started drinking it warm. First, I tried a cold coffee. And again, in a corporate setting, it was just like a norm. You go in, you start, everybody get a coffee, and then we start our day. And if you see it on the commercials or even in the movies, you see people walking around with coffee cups.
Yeah.
It's just, and now we got a Starbucks at in campus. That's even worse.
Oh.
We got 2 of them, I think, too.
Yeah. Yep. It's one in the rec center.
Yeah.
And one, yeah.
Bone Student Center.
Oh yeah. That is so funny. What would you say is one of your favorite ways to celebrate a personal or professional win?
Well, buy me a coffee sometimes. I like scones. They laugh at me at work. I love a scone. Somebody said, what is a scone? It's kind of like a biscuit thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's sweet. Sometimes it's savory, like with cheese. I do things like that, but I really reward myself by actually sometimes doing walks. Maybe just even doing some meditation. But I'll say probably the spearhead all that, I do me time. So to celebrate my me time may be like, okay, I'm away from social media. This is Olanna's time. I'm not answering any phone calls. I'm just going to spend time with myself. And how do I do that? It'll be maybe getting a coffee or getting a scone or something like that. But I've learned how to celebrate myself and just have me time. It used to be going to Bath and Body Works, but I don't as much because of my allergies. I don't go there as much anymore. But I'm just having that me time. I do like to start listening to some podcasts.
Oh yeah.
Which is
Pretty
refreshing
nice.
too as well. Yes, but yeah, just having that me time, whatever that looks like.
Okay. And then last question. If your college experience had a theme song, what song would it be?
So I was thinking about this. I was thinking about different songs. So for those who don't know, I like to sing. I'm actually we grew up in the church, but also even in high school I was in a choir. Was in a choir in college, black chorus at U of I, Illinois State University, well IYC, Interdenominational Youth Choir here, and even in my church. And so I love music. And so one of the songs I always think about is Mariah Carey, Hero.
I love that song.
When she said, there's a hero when a hero comes along. Well, when she first starts along, she's the first verse is when you look inside your soul. She talks about when you there's a hero when you look inside your heart. You don't have to be afraid of who you are. And then in the vamp, she goes, and a hero comes along with the strength to carry on. And I'm like, you know what? You're that hero. I think sometimes when we envision a hero, we think about if y'all in the Marvel X-Men.
Like a suit, like cape and stuff.
Superman.
Yeah.
But I said in that song, she's saying you're the hero. I said, because your superpower is perseverance. Your superpower is you actually were persistent. You were persistent from the application process. Sometimes we got denied, depending on where we applied, but you persevered. You're here now. You're completing the journey. Whatever that looks like, there's going to be some different forks in the road, but you are the hero. And so I love that song because I didn't realize till after everything that I went through. I'm like, wait a minute, nothing wrong with looking to other people as heroes, but you are the actual hero. I'm like, don't you know your superpower? Persistence. And your superpower is, you push through it. So I said that song with some, I'm like, man, I am a hero in my own right. Put a lot of cape on.
Right. Wow. Now I love that song, by the way. Now every time I hear it, I'm going to think about what you just said.
Yes.
It's an amazing song. Well, thank you so much, Miss Olanna, for being here today and sharing your story with us. Your journey is a powerful reminder of how resilience, perseverance, and creating spaces for yourself and others not only open doors for just some, but lots of people over time. We truly appreciate you for taking this time to share your insight as well as your experiences. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of First Gen Triumph Podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, be sure to follow the show and share with someone who could use the encouragement. Until next time, keep going, stay proud, and remember, your story matters.